Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all. My name is Hassan Joudi. I'm part of the organizing team for today's conference. I work as an engineer in the energy sector, and I've been volunteering with the MCB for the past 2 to 3 years. On behalf of the organizing team, I warmly welcome you all to the first Our Mosques, Our Future conference, an event specifically designed to explore the evolving role of our mosques in 21st century Britain today, now in 2018. I'd like to begin with a question that I was asked some days ago, and some of you may have asked yourselves this as you walked in through the doors today. Isn't it ironic that all of us today have come to a conference about mosques, and yet we're not in a mosque? Hassan, I was told, why on earth are you doing a conference about mosques and you're not hosting it in a mosque? Are you crazy? There's a very good reason why. Aside from the name of this building, Friend's House, which emphasizes our bonds and mutual affection for one another as human beings. Aside perhaps from the name of this room, the light, one of the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Islamic faith, in which you just heard some verses of from the Holy Quran. Aside from that, the reason why we chose this venue, one of the reasons, is because many of us spend a lot of time in our mosques. Whether it's for congregational prayer, whether it's planning the next mosque event, or organizing the next social, or teaching at the evening or weekend madrasa, or just cleaning and vacuuming the carpets. Many of us are deeply and passionately involved in our mosques, day in, day out. So for one day, we thought we'd want to take ourselves out of that environment, just for one day, much like how at work, a company department might organize an away day for its team members, as a break from the normal routine, in order that we may pause, that we may reflect together, and that we may learn together. Can we reimagine what our mosques could look like, what services they could provide, or how we could organize ourselves more efficiently? And overall, a question for us all today, is there a better way that we could be running our mosques? The conference has been in the planning stages for the last 11 months. It began in February last year, immediately after the last Visit My Mosque Day. Over 150 mosques took part in holding an open day for their neighbors that day, including many of you here in this room today. And I thank you and I commend you for your solidarity, the bravery and the spirit of openness that you showed in taking part. And following that day last February, the MCB arranged a series of regional roundtable feedback sessions with those mosques that took part: London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leicester, and Glasgow, and many of you attended those sessions. As well as asking you for your feedback about how the Visit My Mosque Day events went itself and what MCB could do better next year, we also asked about the issues and challenges that were facing our masjids generally, and we heard a wide range of issues and views. Externally, Islamophobia was very high on the agenda, with many telling us that members of their congregation had faced discrimination or abuse, or that the mosque building itself had been attacked. Internally, all the issues of running our mosques came out, including young people, how can the mosque better engage with them? Governance issues, trustees that aren't active, how do you deal with that? Disunity, inter-mosque politics between different sects or ethnic backgrounds, imams, training and service provision, and the absence of women in many of our mosque spaces and management teams. And a common theme that we heard throughout these feedback sessions was the prophetic mosque model. And it was clear that many mosque leaders had this vision in their mind as they struggled to chart the way forward for your masjids. So, based on that, MCB said that it's not enough for us just to continue to host a Visit My Mosque Day once a year. There are many other challenges and also opportunities facing our mosques, and we need to begin and accelerate the conversations to addressing them. So as well as continuing to facilitate an annual Visit My Mosque Day, which will be happening, inshallah, next month on the 18th of February, we decided to organize this conference. The topics covered today under the theme, More Than a Prayer Space, is a direct result of the feedback that we received from mosques last year and in over subsequent emails, phone calls, and meetings. Islamophobia, madrasas, outreach, women access, youth, reverts, governance, charity commission, ethnic diversity. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to talk about. And the details of all the talks and the workshops are in your conference delegate booklets that you should have received upon entry today. And there are even more topics that we wanted to cover, but that we could not fit in due to lack of time, and it's only a one-day event. The topics are vast because the challenges that we face as a community are vast. Interestingly, in the US, where there's an estimated 2,000 mosques, not too dissimilar to here in the UK, there was a 2011 documentary film that some of you may have heard of called Unmosqued. Based on first-hand research in the US, they found that mosques there, in general, are underfinanced and understaffed, while mosque attendance is higher than any other American religious congregation. Mosque budgets are less than half the budget of other congregations. They also found that 44% of all imams in the US are full-time and paid. Only half of all mosques in the US have any full-time staff at all. And for those that did, program staff, such as youth officers or outreach officers, accounted for only 5% of full-time staff. This is in the US. I wonder if a similar study is done here in the UK, how different or how similar the results would be. And in the UK, we share some similarities with these, but our mosques also have specific challenges here in the UK. And we must develop our own British version of tackling them. And we must remember there's a huge amount of good as well. It's not all bad, and we have to celebrate and recognize these achievements. Mosques in Britain are already acting as more than a prayer space in many cases. Our objective must be to share that good practice and inspire even more mosques to develop further. We've tried to do that today through the talks and the workshops, and through these case studies in your delegate booklets as well. And of course, there is always more that we can do, and we welcome your feedback on this. And ultimately, if we truly believe that our mosques are the hubs of our communities, then better mosques means better Muslim communities. And if we really believe that Islam is a force for good in society today, then better Muslim communities means a better British society. And I take you back to MCB's vision statement, one which I feel doesn't get used enough generally in MCB, so I'm going to put it on a slide to emphasize the point. MCB's vision statement is empowering the Muslim community to achieve a just, a cohesive, and a successful British society. Surely that is the kind of society that we all want to see. So I have three final requests of you before we begin today's talks and workshops. Number one, solution-focused. It's very easy when talking about mosques to talk about our problems. Isn't it terrible that our mosques don't do this? Oh, it's a shame that my mosque does this rather than that. I ask you that as well as identifying the problems, that we also focus today on identifying possible solutions. And some of the speakers today will be giving you some possible solutions in their TED-style talks, and the workshop facilitators in the afternoon will also help us to focus on those possible solutions as well. Secondly, you are all today guinea pigs. I'd like to make that clear from now. Today's event is a first for MCB. We have a largely volunteer team that has been put together for the first time. Many of them only met each other for the first time this morning. We have tried to take on board as much of your feedback as possible, but we know that no doubt some aspects of today will not go smoothly. They might not go as planned. Maybe a speaker might say something that you disagree with or that you don't like, or something else might go wrong. I ask you in advance for your forgiveness, and I apologize for any shortcomings for today. We are still on the learning curve. And my final request is this: we must never forget that we are massively, massively indebted to the sacrifices that the first generation of our Muslim community in the UK have provided us with when they established the first mosques in Britain since 1889, and the infrastructure of community organizing that was started then and that has developed and matured through the 1950s, 60s, 70s, through to now. It is our generation and the mosque leaders in this room today, drawing upon our elders and the first generation for support, for advice, for experience, that will make sure that their efforts of the first generation have not gone to waste. And if there is ever going to be a room full of people with the drive, the passion, and the expertise to make a real difference to the future of our masajid in the UK, then surely it is all of you in this room here today. These are our mosques, and it is our future. I pray that today's event is beneficial for you all.